David Bruce here with another 3 for All, and this is 3 Keith Scott licks from 1985. And Keith Scott, historically and famously, has worked with Bryan Adams since around 1983, since like the early 80s. And he's another one of Canada's best kept secrets. You know, he's definitely a very overlooked and obscure guitarist. He's not really a household name, but Bryan Adams definitely is a household artist. You know, I mean, worldwide, everybody knows Bryan Adams. You know, Summer of '69 and Run to You and all those hits, and Keith kind of joined forces with Bryan right before Bryan really broke, with Cuts Like a Knife. He appears on Reckless and Into the Fire and all those classic, albums, and still works with Bryan to this day. But Keith's a really tasteful, melodic, emotive guitarist, great tone, great phrasing, always plays for the song, these melodic solos and little fills and things in the song. So he's not really a shredder, and this is not a shred, guitar lesson. But we're going to be looking at bending and emotive phrasing and vibrato and digging in and really expressing yourself. Now, one question I've received from students a lot over the years, is playing with feel and conviction and this energy that you hear everybody use. Clapton and Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, Van Halen, Dimebag Darrell. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's blues or rock or metal or what style. But you hear this aggressive kind of, aggressive energy come out of the guitar, usually string bending and vibrato. Sometimes you can hear it with like fast runs, but we're usually talking, when you hear about feel and expression and emotive phrasing, they're usually talking about bending and vibrato and melodic phrasing, not really shredding. Shredding's cool and it has its place, but so does melodic phrasing and bending and vibrato too. I mean, that's kind of the glue that holds everything together, like when you're playing a solo or in a song. So Keith's, forte or the ace up his sleeve are these really tasteful and expressive, bending and vibrato phrases. And you can definitely hear like traces of Clapton and, these great, David Gilmour and all these great guitarists when you hear Keith play. I mean, those are some of his influences. But just take a phrase like this. And there's actually a clip that goes with this, but this is before we're going to start, with the actual licks. It's just a phrase that Keith played. And I'm kind of digging in. I'm not hitting real hard or picking really hard, but I am kind of digging in. I'm grabbing the note when I'm bending it. Reinforce that bend, pick it hard, and bend it hard. I might be picking a little too hard there, but I'm really, digging in. And that's, both hands are going to be doing that. You're going to dig in with the fret hand, and you're also going to dig in with your picking hand. All right, the first lick is this expressive bending phrase in G minor pentatonic, and we're going to be right here in the third position, something like this. One more time. I really like this phrase because, he's really digging in and he's grabbing those bends, aggressively and bending right to the note. And then right there after he does that initial, whole step bend there from F to G, then he basically, keeps that note held, picks it again, and then releases that bend. And I love those little subtle, you could hear the noise or you can hear that release. And I love those little subtle changes, with bending and vibrato. You can hear everybody doing that. Like that. And then grab, this B flat, bend that up a whole step. And he's kind of just walking down there. He's added that E in there to the, G minor pentatonic scale. And then right there, jump back to A, bend that up kind of a whole step, and then you're gonna almost do this kind of country bend. Kind of a southern rock thing almost. And I also like the way he hits that open G and then slides that F to G. That's kind of a, a cliche lick, but it sounds really cool at the end there. Alright, next up we have this bluesy kind of slip and slide lick. It definitely reminds me of Eric Clapton. And we're still in the key of G, or G minor, and something like this. One more time there. And right there you can see we're basically playing with two positions of, G minor pentatonic. I guess position 4 and position 3 right there. And he's kind of doing the slip and slide right here. And it's a, kind of a familiar phrase. I've heard that, in other, places. But that kind of shift, from one position to the other is really common, especially with pentatonic, ideas and licks. And then right there, you're going to go from B flat back to C. And then right there, do a chromatic, B flat, B to C, and then shift the D. And then F to G. And you're going to bend this G up to B flat. So that's a step and a half. Think of Gilmore. Or Clapton, I guess, would technically be a little bit closer. Because Clapton did that all the time, back in his Cream days and solo stuff. And you're just basically targeting B flat. So it's a big, big bend. If you're not used to step and a half or 2 whole step bends, those are wicked. And they definitely, they'll chew up your fingertips. But they'll also make your fingers and your hand really strong from doing those big mammoth, bends. And here's Keith back in 1985 playing that lick. The next idea features a pretty common sequence using fourths, and I'm a big fan of the sequence, and obviously Keith Scott is too, since he played it during the solo. And we're still in G minor pentatonic in the box right here, and it's something like this. It's got that really slow, gradual release bend at the end. But slowly, you can see we're descending through G minor pentatonic. But the sequence of notes is ascending, so we're descending through the scale, but it's an ascending, grouping of notes. So it's like this. One more time. That little ending right there. And there's where he does that whole step bend. That whole step bend and just gradually, slowly releases it. And you can almost kind of set your watch or something and kind of watch it go down. And then there's like a little half step bend on that B flat and then end on G. So one more time here. Something like that. But here's the footage from '85. And here's a bonus lick, and this didn't come from '85. This actually came from 2013, and Keith's playing on stage with Joe Bonamassa. I'm not really sure the details as far as where it was, but this is a super cool lick, and this is in D7. One more time. So he's kind of playing out of D minor pentatonic right here. One more time there. And there you can see we're playing out of the box, D minor pentatonic right here. And he's targeting this ninth, the E note, so he's added our note in. slide off, and then you're going to come down, kind of shift into the next position, and you're coming down like this. And then you're going to do, so coming down here. And that's kind of interesting because he's doing like this kind of separated bend. You know, it's almost like this double stop bend, but he's separating the notes. And then he kind of does like a released bend back to that G. Something like that. And then right here, he's doing a double stop bend, you know, this B note up a half step to C. Almost kind of a country thing again. Kind of weird, but I like that. And he's really just emulating this. But he's doing it with bends. And it's a little, you know, it's just a little rough around the edges, but I like that kind of gritty, you know, bluesy attack. All right, that's going to wrap this look at 3 Keith Scott licks from 1985, and definitely he's a very dynamic and, you know, lots of feel, lots of emotive, you know, energy in his music. And he can definitely, you know, I've heard, you know, and seen clips of him just going off on stage, you know, playing like Hendrixy stuff, and, you know, very tasteful and very, you know, very much a musician, you know, a guitarist with a musician's mind. He's not worried about, you know, flashy, you know, soloing or something to try to impress people. He's always consistently, you know, just been kind of a slave to the song, where it's like, okay, you know, as much as, you know, some guitarists want to fly off and start doing all this crazy, you know, shredding and stuff, it's always good to have your feet on the ground and really just play for the music that you're making or that you're playing over. Because if you do too much, it's really obvious, you know, it's almost like a distraction, like, wow, okay, the song came along, and then all of a sudden it felt like I was being attacked by bees or something, you know, during this guitar solo. But there's something to be said for that crafty feel and melodic player. You know, think of like Steve Lukather and, you know, and some of these very, you know, tasteful guitarists. Steve can shred, but he can also play some of the most melodic and expressive ideas. Neil Schon from Journey, another one. Neil can shred, but he plays all these, you know, really expressive melodies, and it enhances the music and the songs, you know, of Journey's music, just like Bryan Adams with Keith Scott. So anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.